friends and enemies, BD Wong. It's time for a new Perhaps It's You, your favorite unofficial Unsolved Mysteries rewatch podcast. And that's the noise of my dogs leaving the room. I'm Liz.
And I'm Samantha.
And Samantha's real tired, so let's cruise through this, right?
Let's
That's how people want to
do
start a
it.
podcast. Oh, I don't want to do this.
Let's get this over with.
Done.
That's
All
how
right,
we start every podcast, though. So they're used to
God,
it.
we do. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We love our listeners. Okay, I do have a couple updates. One update is that our Patreons already know this, our patrons, whatever, that we gave our money for last month to Palestine Legal. So that's an update from last time. I hope that does a tiny bit of good. Update number 2 is that sailors are using death metal music to try to keep orcas from hitting their boats. They made a special playlist. You can find it on Spotify. Listeners, I don't think the porpoise of justice will be deterred. If anything,
is it working? Is this a Hail Mary? I
think it's a Hail Mary. There was speculation about, like, you know, they're pumping it into the water and hopefully the like vibrations were supposed to scare off the orcas.
This is going to attract the orcas.
The article I read, it said yes, that orcas are too smart. And even if this works for a short period of time, because they're like, what the fuck's that? Then eventually
know that's coming from a boat, and then they're going to attract them.
They'll know that that's the sound of the enemy. Or I'm hoping it like psychs them up for their attacks, where they like rock out a little bit.
It 100% would.
Boom! Right? I also learned yesterday, though I don't think I read the whole article because I'm an American, that penguins take thousands of naps per day. It turns out
I've never related to an animal more.
It turns out that they fall asleep for just like a few seconds at a time, all the time. And scientists never knew this before. So
because they just seem like they're awake all the time, but kind of moving slow.
I guess just like whenever their eyes are closed, they are not like resting. They're fully fucking asleep, even though it's just for a tiny, even though it's just for a few seconds, which is not how, like, unfortunately we can't do that,
So I guess penguin's natural state is narcolepsy.
Yeah, I guess it's just like constantly falling into tiny little naps while in formal wear. Wow. Heroes. The other update, and I didn't really look into this, but in our last episode, we talked about how the guy who supposedly created Earth Day was a murderer. Well, a couple listeners reached out and they were like, he didn't really create Earth Day.
He claimed to have created Earth Day, but we probably should have taken his word for it.
Yeah. Like, obviously, like anyone like that with a huge ego, he was a speaker at the first Earth Day and then basically took credit for the whole thing. And everybody was like, you're not the only person here. Like, what are you talking about? So you can still celebrate Earth Day. It doesn't have to be associated with that dude. If you want to throw like a big Earth Day bash, which I think sounds lit, you can do that without feeling like you're honoring. I don't even remember his name, whoever that loser was.
Good news.
Yeah. So there we go.
I have some flag updates. Do you want some flag
updates? Yeah, I do.
So if you stuck around to the end of our last regular Unsolved Mysteries episode, my found love was the Minnesota flag redesign submissions that many a citizen, graphic designer, I'm using that term loosely in some cases, submitted.
Yeah, local folks. Yeah.
You may have seen it. It went viral because it was just, there were so many funny ones. The laser loon, for one.
There was more than one loon with laser eyes. And I think that suggests that should be the flag. Like, that suggests that's the will of the people to me. If that theme keeps coming up, it's like, all right, that's what the people want, laser loons.
I've learned a bit about flags since then. My algorithm kind of knew what I was looking for and fed me a lot of flag info. Apparently, the laser loon may be a nod to when New Zealand redesigned their flag and opened up submissions to citizens. And apparently one very popular, like, crowd favorite was a kiwi with laser eyes. And so I think the loon may be a nod to that. Although I would argue that the loon makes more sense to have laser eyes because loons have red eyes. and they're very
Yeah.
creepy. So I think a loon with laser eyes makes a lot more sense than a kiwi with laser eyes, personally. But I think that's might be why there were more than one
No, I
laser
think that's just
loon.
because that's what people want. And that's also why there was that Kiwi submission. It's just what people want.
I mean, it's true. If someone, I have Googled it as recently as a couple hours ago, there is currently no laser loon t-shirts. So if someone could get on that, I would be your first customer. I want a laser loon
What
t-shirt.
the fuck?
Yeah, that's what I said. Of all the designs that were t-shirt ready, a laser loon. But the update is that the final 6, I think, have been chosen by the
They're
committee.
so boring.
People do not like them.
I hate
Not a
them.
single loon.
I also don't appreciate. Okay, the loon, if you did not know, and why would you, is the Minnesota state bird. But apparently, when the committee was like going over the flags, they were like, "Why are there so many loons? I've never even seen a loon." First of all, it's our fucking state bird. Look it up. Second of all, I have seen a loon, and I'm a fake Minnesotan. So, like, I don't know, get out more, touch water.
I love how offended you are on behalf of the
I
loons.
am. I was like, that's our state bird. You can't act like they just why did they put this random thing on there? It's the state bird.
Yeah, apparently some of the people on the committee are from southern Minnesota, and I've also learned that loons do not live in southern Minnesota. Because some people were like, "Well, the loons aren't, not everywhere in Minnesota has loons, so it doesn't
It's the
represent the
state
whole state."
bird. That's your fucking problem. Move to a different part of the state.
I
I don't
love
know what
how
to tell
outraged
you.
you are about the loon. I was also disappointed that a loon did not make it onto the flag. It seems like the front runner for the state seal has a loon on it, which is good.
Okay,
I
now I
so
don't I have so many complaints about this process. One is I don't understand why the flag and the seal, which we're picking both of those things, why they're not picked together because they should match.
it
That's
seems
just
like
like
they should
that's just
match.
like common sense. That's just like branding 101. They should match. I don't understand where they're like, let's pick a flag and then also let's pick a seal. No, they should like correspond. There should be
Some
something.
of the finalists for the seal were clearly submitted by the flag designers and do match, but I think the number one um contender for the state seal does not look anything like any of the flags. And the state seal that the loon seal that they apparently is number 1 is really good, but you're right, it does not match the flags in any way.
It should have to have like the same colors or the same elements or something. It
And
just
I guess they might so apparently they might redesign some of these, and so the colors could change. So they might match in the end. I don't really know. Um
they better.
they all have stars on them.
Or I'm gonna be down there at the state capitol protesting a protest of one. And it's just a sign that says what the fuck, and then it has a laser loon on it.
People do not like the flags. Like they seem to be universally
They
disliked.
are boring, and half of them look like sports logo things.
I on one hand understand the what makes a good flag? Like one of the tests is like a child should be able to draw it. Like they should be very simple. But I also think that there were simple ones that were submitted that did not make even like the last 3 rounds, and I'm a little puzzled by because I thought there were flag submissions that fit the bill, as far as like simple, recognizable, whatever. There's all kinds of like criterias that didn't like make it into like any of the final rounds, and the ones that did are a little boring,
I feel like yes, it should be something very simple that's easy to replicate, but that doesn't mean it can't be like clever. And the ones that made it through just look like something that would be on a fucking disposable cup. Like
No, I agree. I thought there were some that played with the shape of the state really interestingly, and none of those made it. I thought there were ones that were a little more of a nod to snow that didn't make it. I don't know. I'm not super pleased with any of the
they should have
final.
they should have put me on this committee. I'm offended they didn't.
I am too, on your behalf.
Like, hello. I don't ugh. Ugh.
My final thing to say about the flag is that have you heard of the North Star flag?
No, I don't think so.
This is a thing that I just learned that apparently has been a thing for as long as I've been alive. This is a flag that was designed in 1989 as an alternative to the Minnesota flag, which Oh, okay, I said that was going to be the last thing I said about the flag. I lied. In our last episode, I do have to issue a minor correction. In our last episode, we stated that the current Minnesota flag is not problematic. It's not true. Very racist. Uh, our current flag, which is a bad flag, you can't tell what it is unless you look at it up close. I've never done that, so I'm defending myself a little bit. But there is a depiction on the current Minnesota state seal of literally a settler waving goodbye to a Native
Oh my
American
god!
that's riding off
That's
into the
what's happening
distance.
in that?
Yes.
No wonder
It's literally
it was
depicting
so
the
cluttered that I
displaced.
had no idea.
Our current state seal, which is on our state
Blech,
flag, literally
blech.
depicts the displacement of Native peoples from Minnesota
Okay.
to
I
such an extent that there is literally a Native person riding off into the sunset and some white guy waving goodbye.
I'm gonna cry. Okay, first of all,
So
thank
our current
Christ we're getting a new one. But they should have had someone native design the flag. I don't know how you would pick who would do it or whatever, but that would have been a nice gesture
it would. I
after having this horrible flag up for so long. It's
Yeah.
like people are still here. Like,
Mhm.
oh
Yeah,
my
no.
god.
Well, anyway, apparently, so going back to the North Star flag, there was this flag, and the North Star flag did make it into like I think the second to last round of judging because lots of people submitted it. It's a like grassroots Minnesota state flag redesign that was started in the
Okay.
late 80s, and lots of people fly this flag. Like you can buy it from legitimate
I'm
flag
looking at it right now, and I've
retailers.
seen it before, and I didn't even realize that that's what it was.
And apparently this like campaign, I don't know if they're a 501c3 or what they are, but they have a website. Their like grassroots campaign to redesign the Minnesota state flag is part of the reason why the flag is even being redesigned in the first place. Like they like had a campaign, the long running campaign to try and get Minnesota to get rid of our shitty racist flag. And they obviously wanted to replace it with
Oh.
this one. It did not ultimately make it into the last round, but a lot of people really love this North Star flag. They fly it on their boats all
They
over
should
the
have gotten
state.
credit because they're the ones that have been pushing for this the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, they're a big part of it. I don't know if they're the only ones, but they're definitely a big part of it. I learned of this when I was reading through Twitter threads about the flag. I had no idea this North Star flag even existed, and it has existed for a long time.
Okay, I
So
think there's a thing that could make the North Star flag better, and it's a laser loon. If you
I
take
agree.
this existing flag, which has like a blue sky, a big yellow star, and then there's like a white wave, and then green below it. So you have kind of like sky, water, a star. Makes sense. We're the star of the north, right? But then because you have this water area,
Put a laser loon on there.
put a laser loon on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Like, do you want to sell some merch or not? You know, state of Minnesota.
Get a laser loon
Are you
on
even
that
trying?
fucking flag. They're not, I don't think.
Ugh.
So anyway, we'll keep you apprised of all the flag news here. Perhaps it's you.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be complicated, but it should be like iconic, you know? Like the
I
flag
agree.
for Japan is literally just a red circle, but it's so good. That's perfect. It's
Yeah,
just
no,
like
I
the
agree.
sun. We're the land of the rising sun. Red circle. It's like
I
simple, good, like
I mean, we've yet to see the final design, obviously, but I just have a feeling that our flag is not going to have the same sort of iconic. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but
no, I don't think so.
we'll see. We'll see what. Well, I'm going to keep an open mind, but right now I'm a little disappointed.
I'm not going to keep an open mind.
Okay, that's
And
fair.
I've decided to hate it already, no matter what it is. And I feel
That's
good
fair.
about that decision.
Do you have a favorite of the finalists, or are you just boycotting it entirely?
Oh, there was one. It was a little bit more complicated though, and it showed like I think it was when it was down to 6. It was like the one that got cut like immediately. It showed like water. I don't know. But it was a little bit more complicated, and I could see why maybe that's like not the best choice. But I
Yeah,
just feel like so many of them have like a sporty look
I agree. I agree. A
that
lot of them look like sports logos to me.
that I'm not into.
No,
And I feel
same.
like it would have been cool to do a loon or like a lady slipper in some simplified way since that's a state flower. I don't know.
My dogs have strong opinions about it as well.
As they should. They live here too. And that picture that was just someone's dog that wasn't even centered, that didn't make it to the finalists.
It's justice for a good boy flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sasquatch we really liked didn't make it. The Teletubby son, shockingly, didn't make the final cut.
I still feel like my idea that was half sunshine, half snowflake would have been good, but
One of the finalists, which does seem to be the front runner, is a star with a snowflake motif on top of it. And I don't hate that one.
I like that. I would remove the center dot.
Interesting. Apparently, that star is the same star that's on the floor of the rotunda in the St. Paul Capitol.
Oh.
Which I think is interesting.
Okay.
But I like that there's snow in that one sort of depicted.
What if the Minnesota state flag just said "Suck it, Wisconsin"? Do you think that would have won? I should have submitted that.
I think that would have been a popular one with the citizens. I don't know. It seems like this committee is a little hoity-toity.
I want to know how the committee was chosen. Maybe we could get real deep on this whole flag thing. Who are these people?
Flag, you can be flag experts. I think they're flag experts. I don't know. There's a
what?
Is it vexology? I forget what it's called.
Oh.
There's it's like a study of flag design.
I feel like us having a Minnesota-based podcast in the top 1% of podcasts in the entire world makes us
Vexology, the study of flags.
Right?
You know what? It doesn't make us not an expert.
It makes us experts on Minnesota culture, I'm going to say.
Sure. Vexologists are people who study flags. So I think that's probably who's on the committee.
I'm terribly vexed. Fine, okay, whatever. No laser loons for us.
I know. Get me a one on a t-shirt, though. I beg you.
So long as they get rid of that stupid racist one, I guess anything's better.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really something. Okay, so we are on season 8, episode 8 of the original Robert Stack Unsolved Mysteries, everyone.
We sure are.
And you can watch that for free on YouTube. It's on Amazon. It's on the Roku. It's fucking everywhere. You can find it. And Samantha is going to start off this week.
Yes, this is an unexplained death. And sorry, I didn't have the Unsolved Mysteries wiki pulled up for my update. So, okay, this is the unexplained death of Leroy Dreyth.
I think this is a good, mysterious one. This is a good one.
This one is good. Actually, there's a few good ones in this one. On Memorial Day, 1968, 18-year-old Leroy Dreyth had just left his girlfriend's house in Meade, Colorado, when his car slammed into a tree. He was killed instantly. The coroner's ruling was suicide, but 25 years later, at his family's request, his body was exhumed for an autopsy. His sister, Vicky Maherling, had always been convinced that her brother was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
So she said that she took a vow that she would continue searching. She basically promised her brother that she would not let him down, that she would find out what truly happened to him, because no one believed the coroner's report. They called it an auto suicide, which is very odd. I don't think most people commit suicide by driving their cars into trees.
It's just very rare. And I'm sure you'll get into it, but not really no investigation was done. So no. I totally understand why the family is super suspicious about it, because I would be too if I was in their place.
Yep. It looks really fishy from top to bottom. So Leroy was the oldest of 4 children. At age 17, he fell in love with 16-year-old Patty. A year later, they were engaged. On the day he died, Leroy went to a party at Patty's house. He left the party in the late afternoon. A block and a half away, his car smashed head-on into a tree. The first people on the scene were Leroy's brother and his father, Henry. Was it his father who said he tried to hug him and say, I'm going to get you some help? It was really heartbreaking. Obviously, they don't have cell phones, so someone had to run to the local grocery store to call the police and get an ambulance.
Oh my God.
When the medics arrived, a bystander made a comment that Leroy had fought with his girlfriend and that he had said he was going to kill himself. Delbert Mickelson was the ambulance driver and said that
Wait,
the
I'm sorry, Delbert?
Delbert Mickelson.
I have never heard that name before in my 40 years on this earth. Delbert?
Delbert.
Okay.
Delbert.
All right. Hi, Delbert. If your name is Delbert and you're listening to this podcast, please get in touch. Perhaps it's you podcast at gmail.com. I want to
Delbert.
hear from a Delbert.
We once talked about the name Dorcas, and I don't know if we mentioned that the woman who invented the green bean casserole was named Dorcas.
I mean,
And
who else is going to invent green bean casserole? Of course it was a Dorcas.
I forget her last name. It was like O'Reilly or something.
That's
I don't
probably
know.
green bean.
Dorcas green bean.
Probably Dorcas green bean or Dorcas hot dish.
Green bean casserole. Dorcas. I gotta find her last name. Dorcas Riley. I was close. I thought it was O'Reilly.
Close.
Well, the reason I brought this up, because you mentioned weird names, is that I saw a TikTok on Thanksgiving from her family. It was some news, I forget which news outlet had produced this TikTok interview with her family. Her daughter and granddaughter are also named Dorcas. So there's 3 generations of Dorcases in the green bean casserole legacy.
That's very unfortunate.
And I do not know. They did not say if her granddaughter had a daughter named Dorcas, but it's possible there's
someone
4.
has to break the generational curse. You either
I
have
also
to
was
not have
Dorcas's
children.
mom named Dorcas? How
Oh
many
my God.
Dorcases? Dorcases?
Dorcas. Dorcai. What is the plural of Dorcases? If your name is Dorcas and you listen to this podcast, get in touch. I'm sorry.
What if there was
we're
is there a
ripping on your
Dorcas
name?
out there?
I just imagine childhood was real rough if your name was Dorcas. Literally Dorcas.
Could you imagine if there was a Dorcas married to a Delbert? Dorcas and Delbert Mickelson.
I hope I get invited to that wedding. I hope I get real drunk and like ruin it.
I really like older names generally, but I think Dorcas could be left in the past.
I don't know that maybe that always had the meaning of like being a dork, you know?
It's biblical, I think. I think there's Dorcas in the Bible.
So yeah, there's probably a time when it was fine to be named Dorcas, but in today's modern world, I would not want to be named Dorcas. It's hard to be like, oh, what a beautiful name. What are your feelings on green bean casserole, by the way?
I love a green bean casserole.
Really?
Yeah. Why are you surprised?
Because I do not.
What? This might be the end of our friend. I love green bean casserole. And in fact, the green bean casserole at our Thanksgiving this year was a bit of a tragedy, and it was my fault. And I'll tell you why.
Well, of course,
because
it was.
Yeah, well, I made it. Yeah.
No, sorry,
I made it. So I've recently discovered cream of chicken with herbs. Okay. And if you're making a recipe that has cream of chicken in it and you use cream of chicken with herbs, it just makes it better. It's delicious. So I was like, well, cream of chicken with herbs is better than cream of chicken. So cream of mushroom with garlic would be better than regular cream of mushroom. And I used cream of mushroom with garlic in the green bean casserole, and it made it taste fucking weird. It was kind of gross, actually. I would not recommend. Don't fix what ain't broke. The original green bean casserole, just exactly as Dorcas intended it, is perfect the way it is. Do not change it.
I think I need you to make me a green bean casserole now. I think I need to taste.
Have you been eating green bean casserole made by people who don't know how to make it?
I mean, my family does not make it, so I think I need to taste what you're tasting if you like it.
I mean, I make it exactly like the Campbell's recipe.
What I have tasted, I would not be raving about right now. So
I love green bean casserole. I love it. I actually love.
So fascinating to me.
Thanksgiving dinner is one of my favorite meals, and we make just like the the kind of standard dishes, and I love it all.
Is Dorcas from Minnesota?
Let me find out. Dorcas Riley.
That seems on point. That seems on trend.
No, actually, I don't think she. I'm not seeing anything that says she was.
Wow,
Dorcas
that's a real.
Riley.
You know what? It can't be, because people would bring that up all the time if it was true.
I think so. But Minnesotans are kind of obnoxious about things like that, and I feel like they would
Yes.
be saying it all the time.
Anytime Minnesota is connected to anything, mentioned in anything, suddenly it comes up
We cannot fucking
constantly.
shut up about it.
But that's me with the Honeycrisp apple now, where, like,
True, she's from
I'm
New Jersey,
twist.
so
I'm, like, walking around Illinois being like, "Hey, everyone, did you know University of Minnesota invented the Honeycrisp apple? It's only the best apple." Was I there? No. Did I have anything to do with it? No, but
I wish we had invented the green bean casserole.
it seems
That's
like something Minnesota would have invented for sure.
100% does.
Basically any potluck food. It's like, well, clearly that was invented in Minnesota in, like, a Lutheran church basement, you know?
Right, you just mix some condensed soup and random other shit together and bake it all in an oven
I'm gonna
as a
make
Minnesota
you
recipe.
I'm gonna make you make me green bean
I'll make you a
casserole.
green bean casserole. You're probably not gonna like it. I mean, it's not a hard recipe. I make it exactly as the Campbell's recipe states, so I'm sure you've had it just like that before. And if you didn't like it then, you're not gonna like it now.
We'll put together a puzzle, eat green bean casserole, maybe
Fuck,
a
that
hot
sounds like
dish.
my
I don't
day.
know. Okay,
Green
sorry.
bean casserole and a tater tot hot dish.
I don't really like tater tot hot dish.
Okay, I'm revoking your Minnesota citizenship. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
Maybe you make a better one. I don't know.
probably not, but I still like it. So, okay, where we left off was Delbert Mickelson
All right. This all started because someone was named Delbert.
picked Leroy up. Um, the coroner, he said the coroner came to the hospital, went over what happened with the ambulance driver. And then I was the first one to relay the story to him that he had had a fight with his girlfriend, which this is all hearsay. This is like a game of telephone. No one actually knows if he had a fight with his girlfriend. Some person just said
Right.
it, and then it got relayed to the coroner as if it was fact. But based on that information, the coroner decided that no autopsy was necessary, and he called Leroy's death a quote auto suicide.
Yeah, that's kind of sloppy. That sounds real lazy to me.
Leroy's mom was named Frida Bruce, and she went to the district
Okay, that's a
attorney.
great name.
There's a lot of good names in this
Frida
one.
Bruce.
Frida Bruce. She told the DA that she did not believe it was suicide. She thought it was murder and that she wanted them to investigate. He was rude to her and said she was, quote, just a distraught parent and that there was no reason for them to investigate and that she should just go home and get over it.
He was like, "What do you think we do here? Autopsies?" And she was like, "Yeah, it's
Yeah,
literally your job."
actually, yeah. And she said she went home and cried, but she never got over it, and good for her. Um,
Hmm.
his sister, Vicky, was 11 years old when he died, and she says that her brother's death was a defining moment in her life. She remembers her mom crying, and even though she was only 11, she knew that something bad had happened and something had changed in their family. But she said that she had to wait until she was an adult to attempt to solve the mystery. But she never once believed that Leroy committed suicide. There's a photo of her with her brother holding
I
puppies.
know, it's so cute.
It's the cutest thing I've ever seen, and it just breaks your heart.
Of course she doesn't believe that he committed suicide because there's literally no evidence that he did.
Zero. He crashed his car into a tree. They didn't even do an autopsy, so why would anyone think it was suicide?
There's no
It's
note.
much more likely to not be suicide. It's more likely to just be an accident, if nothing. Like, I don't even understand.
Yeah.
So in June 1988, we're fast forwarding a bit. Vicky paid a surprise visit to the coroner's office. She expected to be stonewalled, but instead, they told her that they thought Leroy's death had not been fully investigated. And according to Vicky, the new coroner suggested that she hire a private investigator. She said that this was not what she expected. She thought it was a bit strange for the authorities to bring it to
It
her
is
attention.
strange. It is.
But she decided that she was going to become her own investigator. She started knocking on doors, talking to neighbors, looking for anyone who knew Leroy's girlfriend Patty or remembered the day he died. According to the townspeople, there was a party going on at Patty's house, and there had been a fight, but not between Patty and Leroy. There had been several other family members there that did not like Leroy and that had been drinking all day. I'm a little confused about Patty. Did you
Hmm.
understand, like, if his family knew who she was?
I feel like they did not know her well, and I wasn't clear if they had even met her. Like, I think they had heard of her, but
Okay.
maybe they weren't dating for very long or something.
This thing with Patty confused me, and now that I'm, like, reading back over the summary, I'm, like, even more confused about it.
They
Um,
certainly weren't close. I'm not clear if they had met her previously. I think they had, like, heard of her,
yeah.
but it's not like they were like, "Who the fuck's Patty?" But they didn't know her.
Right. So, Vicky placed an ad in the local paper asking Patty to contact her, and it worked. When they met, Patty denied that she ever told anyone that she and Leroy had fought, and that he said he was going to take his life. But according to Vicky, that's all Patty was willing to say. And she got this like impression that Patty knew more but didn't want to say it and was kind of holding back.
I just want the youth to think about for a moment that she wanted to get in touch with someone, so she had to put an ad in the paper. I just want to think you to think about, like, if you had to do that.
And it miraculously worked.
Yeah, like, because everyone read the paper.
So Vicky and her family decided to have Leroy's body exhumed, hoping that an autopsy might provide some answers. Dr. Patrick Allen, a forensic pathologist and medical examiner, examined the body and made a shocking discovery, which was that he had a stab wound in his neck.
See, okay, I'm no coroner, and I've never done any autopsies, but I
Uh-huh.
feel like even without an autopsy, well, even without, like, I don't
You
know.
would see the stab wound in his neck.
Yes! I don't feel like you
Why
need
why didn't
to.
the EMT see it? Why did
That's what's so fishy about this,
I
because
do not understand.
I feel like you could even do a partial alien autopsy version autopsy. No, you don't even need that. You just need a fucking examination to go, "Oh, dude, he was stabbed in the neck." Like, wasn't he bleeding from the neck? Wasn't there blood? I'm so
I
confused.
do not understand. I do not understand. So yeah, he was stabbed in the neck, which seems to be evidence that maybe he didn't kill himself by
Well,
driving into
Samantha,
a
obviously,
tree.
he was like, "Oh my god, I had a fight with my girlfriend that it doesn't seem like I've actually been with for that long. So obviously, I've lost the will to live. So what I am going to do is stab myself in the neck and then drive into a tree."
Makes perfect sense. Happens all the time. He actually stabbed himself twice in the neck. There was one stab
Oh.
wound and one slash wound. So
Ugh.
yeah, Vicky was stunned. But Leroy's neck showed two cuts: a stab wound nearly 2 inches long and a deep 4 inch slash that had severed his windpipe. Based on this information, the cause of Leroy's death was changed from auto suicide to undetermined. But who had attacked Leroy and why?
Okay, why is that undetermined? That seems pretty clearly murder.
I don't know.
You know
I
what
don't
like,
know.
if someone dies and they have a stab wound on them, I feel like you usually wouldn't go, "Well, who knows? Bear attack?
I don't know.
Maybe a bear stabbed him.
I
We'll
was a
never know.
little puzzled by that as well. Um, so
Hypothermia? It's hard to say."
um Vicky believes that Patty is the key and that Patty knows the truth, because she says, in retrospect, everything leads back to Patty's house. Every time I think of a scenario of what happened, the same conclusion, the same thought is that it started at Patty's house with an argument.
But
So
we
what
don't
she,
really know that argument happened. Did
well,
Patty say
yeah,
that that happened?
it seems like there were lots of people at. So she got gathered this information from like people who
Okay.
may or may not have been there.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
This is what we think we know. Leroy arrived for the barbecue at Patty's house around 5 p.m. Patty's former sister-in-law, Carolyn Wirtz, was at the party and says, quote, Leroy came over that day and a lot of Patty's family were there and everyone had been drinking. Okay, it was Patty's family that was there. That's why I got it confused. I thought it was his
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Patty's family was there. Everyone was drinking. She was married to Patty's brother and was living in the house with the family for about 8 months before and after this happened. Patty's family and Leroy had a what she calls a slight argument, and that it was, quote, kind of racial over girlfriends and boyfriends.
Yeah.
This is where a light bulb went off for me. Um, but I don't know,
What
like
does that
all
mean?
I don't know what it means. Kind of racial. And we know that like
So did
Patty
they
was
not
white.
want they didn't want Patty dating him?
He was white and Patty was white. And it seems like everyone at the party was white.
Okay.
So if Patty was black, but this is him arguing with Patty's family. So I don't understand where the racial element comes in. But it seems like, I don't know, maybe he was friends with someone they didn't like. Maybe he was in support of someone else's interracial relationship. I really do not know, but all she said was, quote, "It was
Is
kind of a racial
this
argument over boyfriends and girlfriends."
is this so long ago that like one of these families is Italian and that's like not cutting it?
Oh, maybe it could be.
Because
Honestly, it
I'm
could be.
so confused.
Because this, it all makes sense if in this context, right? So he is doing something that some racist in Patty's family does not like. They get into an argument, and what they think happens is that whoever he was arguing with stabbed him in the neck. He was not, he was still capable of running away. He runs into his truck and drives away, but he's bleeding out. And so he eventually, because he's bleeding out and dying, he crashes his car into the tree where he dies.
And then this family is friends with the coroner's office or something.
Yeah, exactly. I was immediately like, well, they're all like in the KKK, and the coroner is
Oh
buddies with
shit.
Patty's dad or whatever. And
That's not far-fetched at all.
no, I mean it makes sense when you think about it that way. But I don't understand,
Like what it is he did, or yeah, maybe it was just he was friends with someone or
or maybe he just supported. Maybe he just wasn't a
integration.
racist. Yeah, maybe. I don't
Is he
know.
just Catholic? Does that count? Like, I was like, how racist are these people? What's
I
happening?
don't know. And everybody in the story is white, so I don't know.
Okay.
Um, but anyway, after the argument, Patty walked Leroy to his car, and that's when Vicky thinks that he was attacked by Patty's family members.
Damn.
Um, so yeah, and then Patrick Allen thinks that Leroy was fleeing for his life when he crashed his car.
I mean, that
Um,
also makes sense why he crashed the car.
right.
It makes sense why they didn't investigate. It makes sense why they ignored both a stab and a slice or whatever,
In
which should
his
be
neck.
really obvious even to people who have no medical training. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
puzzling.
But what
Um,
was the thing?
I don't know, and I was really hoping the Unsolved Mysteries wiki would have some more information, but it really doesn't. Vicky claims that Patty contacted her again and offered to provide an account of the party, but when she called to set up a meeting, Patty's phone had been disconnected.
Oh, that sucks.
Yep, that's it.
That's it?
That's it. That's all I have.
Ugh. That's so mysterious
I
and
don't even. I'm
so
even looking through the links on Unsolved Mysteries wiki, and there is nothing. So mysterious.
that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's my turn. And I have a lost love. So it's New Year's Eve, 1952. David Kempton was in Los Angeles when he found out that his wife was in love with another man.
Okay, this story is a little wild.
9 months later, his wife Barbara would disappear along with their young daughter, Donna. That's hard to say. Okay, so here's what happened. Back in 1951, I'm sure he regrets this every day. David brought a coworker named Charles home for dinner. This was when they were in Ohio. David and Barbara had been married for 5 years. They had 2 children, Stephen and Donna. Everybody was extremely charmed by Charles, who had all these like grand stories of his adventures, including all these things he had done in California, including meet actress Barbara Stanwyck. So they were like, oh my God, this guy Charles, he's amazing. Here's the thing
This
though.
guy Charles is a walking red flag.
When people are this charming, you should
Mhm.
really, and
Be
I'm saying
suspicious.
this mostly to like girls who are 19 right now. You gotta, why? Why do you need to be that charming? What are you covering up, right?
Exactly. Be
That's
suspicious.
be suspicious. When people are super, super charismatic, think to yourself, why have they developed that
Mhm.
skill? Because Charles is not great, okay? So his stories were actually like so wonderful about California and life in California that they fucking relocated there. They moved there. And then Charles, who didn't even live there, like moved there with them afterwards.
Is weird.
Yeah. So Barbara found herself in love with Charles because he was like so charming. And David was completely blindsided. He tells us that he didn't know there was any problems in the marriage. He had never like suspected his wife of cheating. And then all of a sudden on New Year's Eve, she's like, you know what? I'm actually in love with someone else. So it was essentially decided that Charles would replace David in the family. Like he would just step in as the dad to the children.
The way this man talks about this decision, I was like, "What are you He
I
was
don't
like,
know.
"Well, I guess he's their dad now. I'll
He
leave."
was like, "It's gonna be easiest for the children if I just skedaddle, and then Charles steps in as like the new dad, and they're like the family unit now, and I just go back to Ohio." And maybe in the 50s that made sense, but it's wild. Um, so David goes back to Cleveland. Maybe a whole 6 weeks. He was like a month to 6 weeks later, so barely no time at all. He's in Ohio. He gets a call from Barbara, his now ex-wife, or maybe the divorce hasn't even gone through, probably. She's at a phone booth in Arizona. And she's like, "Yeah, so Charles split." No surprise
Surprise,
there.
surprise, it didn't work out.
Didn't work out. That that gallivanting guy gallivanted right away. And now I'm just stuck in Arizona with our two children. We would love to come home to you in Ohio. And David, being a bigger person than I am, sent her 3 bus tickets. And I
No
think,
hesitation.
yeah. And well, which I realize are his children, but he did seem very forgiving of his wife for just like running off with his friend. But anyway, maybe that's just in his telling of the story. But he sends her 3 bus tickets, and then I think he was staying at like a boarding house or something, so he had to like scramble to find a place that was suitable for 4 people to live.
He
So
literally had to go out and buy a house. I realized it was the 50s. Houses probably cost 12 cents. But
but still, it was not an expense he was expecting. He was
yeah, he
like,
literally had
"Oh
to go
my
buy a
god,
house for 4 people.
my wife left me. I no longer have 2 children because my friend has just like replaced me in my own life. I'm just here in Ohio by myself." And then in the middle of the night, his wife calls and is like, "Yeah, so that didn't work. Can I just come back?"
Can you
So
buy us a house so I can come back?
yeah, so he sets that up. However, that was short lived. I don't even know.
Surprise, surprise, she wants to leave again.
Barbara, get it together. Okay, I don't even know how long. I forgot to write down how long this was. I feel like it was maybe a couple weeks. Charles reappeared. So Barbara left again. Great. And then that doesn't work out.
Barbara.
So she comes back again. And this time she said to David, "Look, I will live with you and I will raise the children, but that's it. Don't ask for anything else." Is how they phrased it. So she's not in love with him, right? She's just there because she kind of has nowhere else to go and also to raise the kids. At this point, David's had enough. I think that's kind of fair.
Yeah.
So at this point, David leaves. He is given temporary custody of both children, and then Barbara has weekend visitation. Not really sure how that came to be, but maybe David just had like a better living situation. Because usually, particularly at the time, women would have had primary custody, but whatever.
Yeah, this is I feel like very unusual.
So that very first weekend that Barbara is supposed to have visitation, she calls up and she says, "Look, I just have a room in like a boarding house. I can't have both children spend the night. Could you just bring Donna over for the weekend and she'll stay in the bed with me?" And he's like, "Yeah, that makes sense. No problem." So he goes over, drops Donna off on Friday, comes back on Sunday. And then the lady that like runs the boarding house is like, "Oh, I love your daughter, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm here to pick her up." And she's like, "Oh, ugh,
They left.
bad news." Yeah, they like skedaddled yesterday. They left town suddenly and said they had a family emergency. And he's like, "What the fuck? Where's my kid? Where did they go?" He has no idea. They didn't leave a forwarding address. He doesn't like know where Barbara would go because he doesn't know where this guy Charles is anymore. They're just gone. Um, at the time the segment was recorded, he had not seen Donna for 40 years. And basically, he just wanted Donna to know that he loved her and that he had wanted to be a part of her life, and that was just taken away from him.
40 years is such a long time.
Years.
Oh my
I
god.
don't remember exactly how young Donna was when she was taken, but she was like 6 or 8 or something. She was like a pretty small child. So he hadn't seen her for that entire time. Fortunately, this was solved like immediately for being on Unsolved Mysteries. Thank you, Unsolved Mysteries, after the broadcast. This is from Unsolved Mysteries Wiki. On the night of the broadcast, Donna's half sister was watching and recognized a picture of her and Stephen at a 4th birthday party as one she had seen in Barbara's home years before. She immediately called her and then the Tuttle Center. 2 days later, she was put in contact with David and they talked on the phone for over an hour. Her name is now Donna Ray Rowe. She is married and lives in San Jose, California, and she owns the travel shop in Los Gatos.
Oh.
Donna told David that Barbara and Charles had been married and had assumed a new last name. She said she grew up in Northern California and had a relatively normal childhood. However, several things made her feel that something was not quite right. One was that Barbara had a photo of Stephen and Donna in their home. So this would be the brother that she also never saw again, right? And as a child,
She
Barb
was like, "Who's that?"
yeah, she asked her mom, like, "Who is this guy?" And her mom had told her that that was a neighbor. And it just seemed kind of weird that they had, like, kept this photo of her and a boy for all this time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Donna also had vague memories of a man and a boy in a place far away. However, her mom was always telling her that that was a dream and that wasn't real. But she had a clear memory of them leaving the rooming house with a suitcase and meeting a man at a corner and getting in the car. When Donna was 17, she found her baptismal certificate hiding amongst Barbara's belongings, and her birth name was listed on it, and it was not the one she was using. However,
Yeah.
it would be 10 years before she found the courage to ask Barbara about it. When confronted, Barbara confessed that Charles was not Donna's biological father and that she had abducted her.
Oh my god, Barbara sucks.
Wow, what a day that must have been. Although she thought of him often, she decided not to search for David because she had to protect Barbara and Charles. I guess you don't want to be like, oh, hey, my mom's a kidnapper. During the phone conversation, David told Donna to tell Barbara that he did not hold a grudge against her. And I'm like, David,
David has
how?
got to be the most forgiving person on this
Why?
planet.
Unless
I
there's
would be
something I
calling
am
the
missing.
police and getting her behind bars.
Yeah, what am I missing? Why don't you hold a grudge? Okay. Anyway,
I
a
don't
few
know.
days later, Donna also spoke to Steven, which is her brother. He said that he could not blame Barbara and that he hoped she would want to see him again.
Why? I would
This
want to see her in handcuffs.
this man is still under her spell 40 some years later. On
I
April
guess.
19th,
If she
19
called him up in the middle of the night and asked him to buy a house, he probably would.
yeah, yeah. After leaving him and stealing their kid 40 years earlier, she'd be like, so you won't believe who left me again. It's wild that they ended up getting married and actually were together all that time
That
because
actually is the most wild part of the story, probably.
Charles,
Charles seems like a
why?
deadbeat. I mean, maybe he was, but I'm
Yeah.
shocked that he settled down.
But in 96, David and Donna were joyfully reunited at his home in Hawaii. To respect Barbara and Charles' privacy, Donna did not allow a reunion to be filmed.
Why are we respecting these people's privacy?
They're kidnappers. But whatever, I guess they're her parents and blah, blah, blah. Sadly, in 2005, David passed away at the age of 83. And on December 1st, 2020, Donna passed away at the age of 72.
Oh no.
But at least they did get some time together.
Oh, that sucks.
The Barbara really I kind of there's probably not really an explanation, but I kind of want it's like, Barbara, what the fuck? Why couldn't this guy be in their life at least, like,
Clearly they keep
visitation?
David seems like the most easygoing, fucking forgiving man on the planet. I'm sure you could have come up with some sort of agreement to co-parent these children.
Yeah. Maybe she
I'm
was
sure
pissed she only had
wouldn't even
weekends or something,
care
but,
that-
like, work it out.
I don't even think he would have cared if, like, Charles was their stepdad. Like, it seems like he was
No.
gonna forgive her
He
for
was
anything.
willing to go back home to Ohio and just give it all up. Why did you do this? Why did you do this to him? Why did you make him worry?
For
Barbara.
40 years.
That's why
Barbara sucks.
Donna was like, we cannot have a reunion. People are going to be coming for Barbara. Once
That
they
might be the
see
real
Barbara's
reason.
face, she is not safe. It's kind of
Yeah.
true.
Agreed.
All right.
Okay, this next one is very interesting. This is a missing person. This is the case of Bonnie Haim. On Christmas morning, 1992, in Jacksonville, Florida, Bonnie Haim, a young wife and mother, opened presents with her son. Bonnie's husband, Michael, captured the moment forever on video. Less than 2 weeks later, Bonnie Haim inexplicably vanished. So, we're told that police began to suspect that Bonnie was dead, a victim of foul play. Their suspicions soon focused on Michael Haim, her husband. Among the most damning evidence was the extraordinary testimony of a surprising witness, their own son, 3-year-old Aaron.
Sorry, Aaron.
So this case has fueled, we're told, a bitter but unusual family dispute. Bonnie's own parents say she willfully abandoned Michael, but some of Michael's relatives are equally convinced that he murdered Bonnie. This is wild. Bonnie's own father, I wanted to go through the screen and shake him.
Yeah, bitch, yes.
There actually was a point in this episode where I questioned whether or not it was her father or the husband's father, and I had to rewind it so that I could confirm that it was in fact Bonnie's father, who was so vehemently defending Bonnie's husband, who like cl- it- forget murder, he like clearly abused her, right?
Right.
So, and here her dad is on TV being like, "No, I don't think he did it."
I hope she haunts him, honestly.
The only thing I could think of is near the end, he sort of made a comment that made me think he was so in denial that her husband murdered her because he was hoping she was still alive.
I mean, that's gotta be a factor.
It's giving him like an incredible amount of benefit of the doubt because I really think he's ignoring some huge red flags. But I kind of wonder if he was like so vehemently denying what's very obvious because he wants to believe that she's still out there alive somewhere and not murdered by
That
her
makes
husband.
sense.
But the way he comes across in the episode is not very good.
No, it's not. No, because I was also like, meet me outside. Like, I was so mad. And I could not imagine someone in my family like throwing me under
Saying
the
you
bus.
abandoned your son
Yes.
and ran away. He
Yes.
at one point says women abandon their families all the time, which is not fucking true.
Yeah. That
But
did
I think
not.
he wants to believe it because if she abandoned her family, she's at least not murdered.
You're probably right.
Except don't go on Unsolved Mysteries and say that about me, even if that is what you believe.
But also, like, no, women do not fucking do that all the time.
No, they do not. What? So,
It's a
anyway.
really horrible myth to perpetuate.
Yes.
Like,
The women will just go start a new life, and you'll never hear from them again. They won't ever access their bank accounts. They won't call anyone or
they don't
check
give
in
a
on their
shit about their
children.
own children that they've given birth
Yeah,
to. Like, I mean, I suppose you can't really do that now anyway. Like,
it's
good luck
harder,
just dropping off the
certainly.
grid. But goddamn, it's
Yeah,
very
so
insulting.
horribly insulting. Your own father is saying this. So,
No, she probably just pieced out. I don't know. She couldn't handle the responsibility.
bitches do it all the time. So Bonnie's husband Michael worked as a manager in a construction supply company owned by his aunt and her husband. Bonnie also worked there. She did accounting work or something. His aunt Evan, I don't know how to pronounce her name, claimed that Michael was often abusive to Bonnie at the office and that she at least once saw it become physical. He like hit her in the parking lot. He was
Yeah.
abusive to her at work around her coworker. Can you imagine what he was like at home when no one was watching? I
God.
mean,
This
give me a
poor
break.
woman. And did anyone do anything? No,
It
right?
doesn't seem like it.
And
It
then
seems
when
like
she
people
goes
just stood
missing,
around watching.
they're like, "Well, she
Oh,
probably
she
just
must
pieced out."
what the
It's
fuck?
like you literally saw this man hit her, but okay. It couldn't be
So
him. It couldn't be him. She probably
could
just
be
found a hole in the space-time continuum and fell through it. That's more likely.
So Bonnie eventually decided to leave Michael and in preparation opened a bank account in her own name. She planned to keep this secret, but unfortunately the bank mailed statements to her at work and he found them and became enraged and was like yelling at her in the office. He demanded that she close the account, which she apparently did. But according to those closest to her, Bonnie never wavered on her plan to divorce Michael. She closed the account, but she gave the money to a friend for safekeeping. She put down a deposit on her own apartment and she enrolled her son in a new preschool. So, like, she was making
She's
plans to get
literally
out.
in the process of trying to divorce an abusive man. She goes missing, and then it's like, huh? Who
Wonder what
knows?
happened.
Who knows?
Seriously.
She probably fell into a wormhole.
She obviously abandoned her children. Um, so all of those plans changed the night of January 6, 1993. That evening, Bonnie came home from work around 7:30 p.m. She intended to drop by Evian's I'm sure I'm pronouncing that right, Michael's aunt, later to finalize plans for a friend's baby shower. According to her, Bonnie called her at 8:30. She was crying and upset and said that her and Mike had gotten into a quote discussion, and she could no longer go.
Hmm.
Um, Michael's
A
aunt asked,
discussion.
yeah, aunt asked her if she wanted, if Bonnie wanted her to call back, to call her later, and she said no, that she would just talk to her in the morning. So the next morning, neither Bonnie nor Michael showed up at work. However, hopes for Bonnie's safe return began to dim that same morning when her purse turned up roughly 5 miles from home, buried in a motel dumpster near the Jacksonville airport. You know, you don't want to take your purse with you when you go off to start a new life.
Yeah, you won't need like money or an ID or anything.
Yeah. So according to Detective Robert Hinson of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Department, robbery was not a motive due to the amount of money and credit cards left in the purse. Michael insisted from the start that he was not involved in his wife's disappearance. He said that on the night of January 6th, Bonnie drove off alone after an argument at around 11 p.m. According to Detective Hinson, Michael stated that he called his mother, Carolyn Haim, and asked her to watch Aaron while he looked for Bonnie. I'm sure that's what he was doing.
Yeah. Not
According,
hiding evidence.
yeah, exactly. Um, he also waited until the next morning to call the police.
Mm-hmm.
He also called in sick that day. Very
Mm-hmm.
suspicious behavior. Um, Detective Hinson was less than convinced by Haim's account of what happened. His instincts led him back to the Jacksonville airport near the hotel, and sure enough, it was there he found Bonnie's car abandoned in a long-term parking lot.
I'm so sorry, Bonnie.
The interestingly, the driver's seat of Bonnie's car appeared to be farther back than would have been comfortable for Bonnie, who was quite short. Michael, however, was much taller than her.
Huh, you don't say.
Yeah, after the vehicle was processed, they found a shoe print on the driver's side floorboard. It was a very pristine print. Um, so they have that evidence. Police concluded that the print had been made by the last person to drive the car. The distinctive tread pattern was traced to a rare style of athletic shoe. The exact pair was owned by none other than Michael Haim.
Mm-hmm.
However, Bonnie's father, Robert, did not feel the shoe print had any significance.
Yeah, he's like, my shoe print's in my wife's car. That doesn't mean I hurt her. It's like, well, if she goes missing and that's the last person to drive the car, then yeah, like maybe it does
I
actually.
I wrote down this quote because it enraged me. If it's his footprint, I'm not sure it means anything. My footprint is in my wife's car. That doesn't mean I ever had done her any harm. Well, if your wife comes up dead, I think it would be a
Yeah.
different story. Your wife is alive and well.
We hope, or is she? Yeah. So we hope.
So next, in a bold attempt to uncover the truth, Detective Hinson arranged for a child psychologist to interview Bonnie and Michael's son.
This is so sad.
They said from what Aaron told them, their only conclusion was that there had been a domestic fight and that Michael Haim had killed his wife and removed her, and that the 3.5-year-old son had witnessed this.
So you see footage of the child psychologist, and I am not sure who else interviewing the child about what he saw, and it's like, did you ever see your mom cry? And the kid's like, oh yeah. And was your mom crying because she was hurt? Yeah. And who hurt your mom? Dad.
My dad. Yeah. It's
And what
horrible.
happened to your mom? It's like, oh well, it was something like, and she fell down. He stopped her and she fell down or something.
Yeah. It's horrible. And
Uh,
then Bonnie's father says that he is not convinced by his grandson's testimony. He said the credibility of a child is something that you have to judge in perspective. He said a couple of things that we know were not true. He said that his mom's car was in a lake, but we know her car wasn't in a lake.
I mean,
So
did he say that? We didn't see
I
that.
we didn't see that in the show, but that's what he claims.
I realized that, they hadn't perfected the methods for, we've talked about this before with Corner House, methods for getting forensic testimony from children. And, there's the whole like satanic panic thing. If you like keep asking children the same questions, they'll start making up answers. But That doesn't seem to be what's happening here. Like, it seems like very straightforward.
Well, and the update, I think, tells us all we need to know.
Well, yeah,
So
also that.
there is an update. It's kind of long, but I'm gonna read it because I think this is fascinating. This is from the Unsolved Mysteries wiki. So this case is solved. One claim made by Aaron was as a child was verified in 1995. He told psychologists when he was 3 that Michael had thrown a shotgun out of the car shortly after killing Bonnie. He eventually revealed to his foster mother the specific bridge that Michael had thrown the shotgun off of. It was located, the shotgun was located in the water below that bridge.
Mm.
It was determined to have been there since the time of Bonnie's disappearance. It matched another one found in Michael's home. In 1999, Bonnie was declared legally dead. Aaron was adopted by his foster family and his name was changed to Aaron Fraser. Michael's parental rights were later terminated. The judge felt that Aaron was at risk of abuse because he was, quote, the only living witness to Bonnie's murder. He and his adoptive parents later sued Michael, claiming that he was responsible for it. So him and his adoptive parents sued Michael in civil court, claiming that Michael was responsible for his mother's death. And in 2005, a civil court judge ordered Michael to pay Aaron $26.3 million.
Whoa, okay.
According to him, he still recalls helping Michael hide Bonnie's body when he was 3.
No!
Her
No!
s-
Who
I know.
did that to their child?
Her sister also recalls that Aaron told her that, quote, Daddy shot Mommy in the stomach. She also
Oh.
claims that his story did not change over the years. He always told her and investigators that Michael was Bonnie's killer. As a
Poor
child, he
baby.
also drew pictures of his father shooting his mother.
I'm gonna
Furthermore,
cry. This is
he
awful.
he wrote an essay in 8th grade describing her murder and how Michael's parents helped him dispose of her body.
Oh my god, imagine that day at school.
Yeah, that's fucking wild.
That's
Imagine
so
your
wild.
student writing this in 8th grade. So, as a part of that settlement I mentioned, Aaron received the house where he previously lived with Michael and Bonnie. During renovations in December 2004, he located a fragment of a skull under a concrete slab in the backyard, which was later identified as human remains. In August 2015, DNA tests on the remains and additional remains that were found were positively identified as Bonnie's. Interestingly, on a 2000 lease for the property, Michael specifically prohibited renters from doing any landscaping or digging in the backyard. Also,
Okay.
also, a 22 caliber shell was found with Bonnie's remains. At the time of her disappearance, he owned a 22 caliber rifle of the same type. On August 24th, 2015, Michael was arrested and charged with Bonnie's murder. He was extradited back to Jacksonville, where he pleaded not guilty to the charges against him.
Fucking bold. What?
After several delays, his trial began on April 8th, 2019. Several witnesses, including Aaron and their family members, testified against Michael. 2 jailhouse informants also testified that he had confessed to killing Bonnie and burying her body in the backyard. One stated that he even feared for his own safety while sharing a jail cell with Michael. Michael stupidly testified in his own defense, denying any
Love it.
responsibility
Love
for
it.
Bonnie's disappearance and murder. And on April 12th, he was found guilty of second-degree murder, and on May 21st, he was sentenced to life in prison.
This murder was solved by a 3-year-old.
The 3-year-old, I don't remember fucking a single thing from when I was 3. I mean, obviously, I never went through something so traumatic, but the fact that he unwaveringly told everyone, I know exactly what happened to my mother, I was there. He successfully sued his father for $26.3 million. Fucking wild.
Bought the house where the evidence was.
Dug up a concrete slab and then found his mother's body. This is the wildest
Wild.
fucking story I've ever heard. So there is a Dateline episode which I wanted to watch, and I still will, but I didn't have time before we recorded. If you're interested, it is from 2020, and it is, oh shoot, I was gonna tell you what season, and I don't have that. Oh yes, I do. It is season 27, episode 38.
Okay.
And it's called She Never Left.
Oh,
I'm fascinated by this case.
honey.
Fascinated. Poor Aaron. But honestly, the whole thing, this case blows my mind.
No, that's so fascinating because you would expect his brain to repress something that traumatic, and
Yeah, but it
instead
seems like he
he
remembered every
he
detail.
held on to it all that time, and that's
And
the only reason this got solved.
yeah, and yeah, it's 100% the only reason.
Wow.
Wild.
Like,
She
out
was under that
actually, you'll
concrete
find the
slab the whole
gun right
time.
over there, and they're like, you're 3, what would you know?" It's like,
And then there it was.
there it is." That is such a wild case. Poor Bonnie. And I think you're right about Bonnie's dad, but he comes off as just this, like,
I mean,
horrible creep.
I think multiple things can be true at the same time. He can be a horrible creep and
Yeah, true.
also just
True.
wanted to believe that his wife or his daughter was alive.
Yeah, that he was gonna find her, like,
'Cause,
dealing blackjack somewhere in Nevada and that
man,
she's
he comes off as a huge dickhead.
yeah. Okay, we have a fun one to end on. This is the unexplained. We're talking about the Devil's Backbone. And
Ghosts, baby.
is it the most haunted place in the US? Okay.
What's up with the ghost screaming at the beginning of the segment?
I do not know, but I love it. So
They do it to us
this
twice.
segment starts off with just like zooming in on a ghost in a reenactment through a window while this like scream is going, like a Halloween decoration scream. So funny. Love it. It's one of my new favorite moments.
This is really bizarre.
It's just a really bad choice. I don't know who decided that was going to spice up the episode, but it's very silly. Okay. Robert Stack tells us that when it comes to ghosts per square mile, few places short of purgatory can match these 4,700 acres in central Texas. So we are,
More ghosts per square mile.
they
I
should put
wish I
that on
could
a
put that on
sign.
a fucking postcard.
I know, so good. So we're talking about land in Texas that's approximately 50 miles south of Austin. The land was once home to Comanche and Apache tribes. It was colonized by Spain starting in the 1700s. And among those early settlers was a Franciscan monk named Espinoza, who Robert Stack says infamous for his ruthless ambition. Maybe I'm supposed to know who that
What?
is, but I don't. Sorry. Okay. More than a century later, it was the final resting place of Confederate soldiers who were looking for gold. I didn't really look into that either, but anyway.
Okay, all right.
Robert Stack says today their spirits live on, or so says longtime resident Bert Wall. So Bert owns a ranch there, and he tells us the story that one night. Okay, like all Unsolved Mysteries Unexplained segments where you have multiple stories, they start with the one that's like possibly the most believable, and they get more and more ridiculous as they go.
Mhm.
So Bert tells us that once upon a time he was up late at night writing on his typewriter, very retro, and his dog started barking. And when he looked up and looked out the window, he saw a Spanish monk. And
Yeah.
this is the thing. Yeah, it's like already so goofy, and this is the first story. So this is what they showed with that scream. It's a guy like in a white robe with a big cross around his neck, standing outside the window, like glowing. Anyway, Bert tells us that he didn't think it was a modern person due to the way that he was dressed. Also, after he looks at him for 15 seconds, he like dissolves into a hiss. So that's probably not just a regular person, Bert.
This is his first clue.
Yeah.
The person no, real people dissolve into hisses.
Okay. And then like every single person that comes to visit Bert seems to have a fucking weird experience. So Bert,
Maybe
invite us
it's
over
Bert.
sometime. It might be Bert. So his friend John also saw something weird when he came to Bert's ranch to hunt deer. He was up on a tree stand. Oh, and also I called guys
Shocked this didn't happen in Minnesota.
I called this guy's mustache the Ghost Whisperer's Revenge.
Mhm.
Anyway,
I
I
love
think he
it.
just had
I
a gray
love it.
mustache, but whatever. So he's up on his tree stand. It's daytime. He hears footsteps at the bottom of the tree, and he can't see anything because of the platform that he's on, but he can essentially hear footsteps like someone is just walking around the tree in a circle again and again and again, and he can't actually see anyone. And at some point, it just stops, and like he doesn't see anyone walk away. The noise just stops. And he's like, okay, that was fucking weird. And then when the sun sets, it's time to like stop trying to kill deer. He climbs down from the stand and he's starting to walk back to the house when he feels like someone is watching him. He gets that feeling. And he
Mm.
turns around, and at the base of the tree is this Native American figure. And despite the cold weather, it was apparently like 20 degrees. this guy is just hanging out without a shirt on. So that was odd. But also the guy just seems like perplexed by John's presence. Like, what are you doing here? So John is like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get out of here now." So he starts walking to the house like as quick as he can, and he notices that this guy is walking like parallel to him, like kind of imitating his movements. Like he's walking, that guy's walking, like they're
Right.
walking kind of side by side, but with a gap in between them. And John said that he didn't feel like the ghostly presence was a threat. He felt more like it was confused and trying to figure out like who he was and what he was doing there.
Interesting.
And that when John took a couple steps towards him, suddenly that guy disappeared. So that to me sounds like one of those ghosts that doesn't know that they're dead. And he probably think it's I don't know, whatever year. And he's like, who is this guy? Why is he wearing these weird clothes?
Why is he wearing all orange?
Yeah,
And
why does he have that
how
stupid
do you
hat
get
on?
clothes that color?
Yeah. Where do you get camo? I don't know. So then that's what that story. Now we hear from Lynn, who used to work as a foreman on the ranch. I don't really know how many people work here or what the hell the deal is, but one night, Lynn is up late reading when he thought he heard thunder. But as the noise gets closer, he realizes it's actually horse hooves running. So he goes to the door, opens it, and there's like 15 to 20 horses galloping right towards the ranch. Except that the riders are wearing what he thinks were Confederate uniforms, and then they ride
Uh-huh.
off. And he's like, "At
Uh-huh.
first I thought they were real, but then I realized they were ghosts."
Okay.
I don't really know how he realized they were ghosts, but I guess maybe the outfits? Were they glowing like in the reenactment? Not sure.
Hmm.
Lynn also had a mustache, and it is like so wide and so gray and so big. And then I called it the goddamn.
Mm.
Sorry, Lynn, I'm not a fan. Okay, so now a different dude named John, because lots of dudes are named John, tells us the story that he was hiking with friends in the area, which is known as Haunted Valley, but he says he didn't know that at the time. I don't
Okay.
know. This is the one that's the weirdest, obviously, because it's the
Had I
last one.
known this was Haunted Valley, I never would have gone there.
Or just like that didn't influence his perception of what happened. I didn't know it
Sure.
was Haunted Valley. Okay. So he says that he had, and this is just like thrown out there. They do not lead you up to it. They're just like, he says he had a supernatural vision of a wolf and that it possessed him. And I was like, oh, whoa, okay.
All right.
Well, okay. So he says that he's like out in the woods with his friends. He's with two friends. They go to like look at a creek or something. So he's standing there by himself, and all of a sudden he has a vision of a wolf, and it's like running right towards him and jumps at him. And the moment when it would have been like entering his body, it felt really cold,
This is bizarre.
and he felt a chilling sensation go through him. And so his friends weren't there, so they didn't see anything weird. But when they get back, they all go back to the truck to drive to the ranch. And I guess he was like super cold. He like made the truck cold or something. So now his friends are freaked out, and they bring him inside. And it was like he was in a trance, and that he spoke in quote an unearthly baritone. And he was suddenly obsessed with all of the massacres that had happened in the area. Look,
Okay.
you're just getting a lot of information really quickly, and I don't know anything about any of it.
This is common post wolf possession.
Yeah, just
Uh
you start talking in a really deep voice about how
yeah,
many people have died on the land.
it's a normal side effect of
But
being possessed by
then,
a wolf.
yeah, but then there's a sudden gust of wind that like goes through the building, and the kitchen
Uh-huh.
door slams closed, and that was his
Uh-huh.
spirit leaving. Because after that, he was fine.
Okay. Well, they gotta go. The spirits have to go back
Yeah.
to the spirit world.
Unfortunately, we get no more information about that.
What more information do you need, Liz?
Yeah, that's like really good point. So Robert Stack tells us. Also, Robert Stack's tone kind of shifts throughout these stories, and by the last one, he is like checked out. He was like, "This is fucking bullshit. I hate my job and my life." Right? But then he says, "Here in the Devil's Backbone, ghosts are as common as spines on a cactus." Some
I
real,
love.
real folksy wisdom. And Bert tells us the Devil's Backbone is haunted because it is loved. and that
Mhm.
people love that land, and that when he is gone, he will, quote, haunt this same son of a gun. Oh, Bert.
I love the phrase, "I'll haunt the same son of a gun." I think a great coloring sheet would be a little desert scene with some cactuses and little ghosts poking out, and then it just says, "Ghost" whatever Robert Stack said, "as common as spines on a cactus."
Summon his spines on a cactus. Okay, I'm gonna just. I just want to know if Bert's still alive. The Devil's Backbone. I mean, I'm assuming this is unsolved. We never got to the bottom of whether
You
or
don't
not
say.
whether or not wolves can possess people. Okay, blah blah blah. Spiritual connection to the land. Unsolved. You don't say. Okay, sadly, December 12th, 2010, Bert passed away at the age of 70.
Damn.
Also, a Texas family contacted a Texas-based paranormal group and told them about how their son was, quote, talking to a little girl with a hole in her head.
Wha What?
The group believes the ghost is that of a girl who was killed along with the rest of her family by the Comanches on the ranch in the Devil's Backbone during the 1800s. Okay,
I'm not
sure.
buying this.
The group reportedly recorded the voice of the girl saying that she liked to play with the family's cat. And then you just like made up this racist explanation. Got it. Well, now I'm kind of disappointed that I read that Unsolved Mysteries wiki, but we're done. Let's rate it.
I'll just stop yawning first. Mysteriousness. Okay, fucking mysterious.
Very mysterious. That first case, I need to know. I need to
I
know.
that it's shot up to the list of my favorite mysteries slash mysteries I would most want to be solved.
And
Um,
Bonnie's case was very mysterious until recently, and fortunately, it was solved by someone who was literally 3 years old. So I'm giving this a big thumbs up.
big thumbs up.
Also,
Great.
can the spirits of wolves just jump into you and make you freezing cold? Not sure.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery. It's never happened to me, but it did happen to someone named John. So
Okay, speaking of that last one, I think our next category, which is reenactments, I think it needs a thumbs up because that
thumbs
wolf.
way up. The wolf looks very stupid. But
So
also, oh, I forgot to say that the segment closes with the same Zoom ghost scream as it opened with. So
that's
silly.
it's a
So
narrative
silly.
arc.
Yeah, it's
It's
the bookends of the
yeah.
segment. Yeah, so thumbs way up for reenactments because they are just pure unsolved mysteries ridiculousness.
I can't say that anything stood out for fashion.
No, fashion, thumbs down. We do get some non-cop mustaches, but it's not enough to give it a
I
thumbs
don't
up.
know. They weren't that great.
No, I
So,
literally called one of them the goddamn because I hated it. So
yeah,
thumbs
thumbs
down.
down. Robert Stack.
I'm gonna give Robert Stack a thumbs up. He could have been in this episode more, but I like how he clearly like is giving up as the paranormal segment is going. Like they gave him all these folksy cute things to say, and by the end of it, he's really like, to hell
Yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
yeah. And you're telling me this guy was possessed by a wolf?
He's like, I am a respected actor, and you're making me say this bullshit. I could be on a yacht right now. I should be making out with Elizabeth Taylor. I don't need this shit. You can like tell he's so over it. And for that, you would think that gets him a thumbs down. No, no,
No.
friends. That gets him
Thumbs
a
up.
thumbs way up.
Thumbs way up. Because who among us doesn't want to quit their job
Yeah.
every once in a
Yeah,
while?
exactly. Even if it's a pretty plush job, like hosting Unsolved Mysteries. You know, there's
Yeah.
nights when he was like, I don't want to put on this trench coat. I don't want to do this. I
Yeah,
want to stay
exactly.
home and eat green bean casserole and watch TV.
And that's what we call relatable.
So, how would you rate this episode?
Okay, honestly, I really liked it. I really liked
I
my
think it's
first
good.
I liked both of my mysteries. Yours were really good. That last one was so kooky. I think it was fantastic. I feel like it's a 4.
Yeah, I would say 4, 4.5
Yeah.
because you get some real mysteries, but then it's balanced out with the lost love and the paranormal. So it's not like so depressing.
That Lost Love was heartbreaking, but it was pretty wacky the way that that woman was running off and coming back
Barbara.
and running
Oh,
off.
Barbara.
And then even though we don't get a reunion, I got a little
At
choked up
least they
with the
got back
update.
together. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it was one that Unsolved Mysteries solved, so that always feels good where you're like, "Yes, the Telecenter did it again," right?
yeah,
So,
exactly.
and it's
So,
not every day that we get to talk about whether or not the spirit of wolves can possess people, which I think we all agree that obviously yes.
of course,
So yeah, I'm gonna say 4.5 even.
I love
It's
it.
really damn
I thought it
good.
was good. I'm gonna
People
watch that
should watch
Dateline.
it. Yeah. Yeah, send me the link for that Dateline because I want
I
to watch
will.
it too. Okay, should we do some found loves?
I don't think I have a found love, but if you do, I'm all ears.
Okay, I'm gonna do one even though I already told you about it. So you're
I'll
like,
pretend to be
whatever.
surprised.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Liz, what? I'm gonna recommend a book called Beneath the Stairs by Jennifer
Ooh,
Fawcett. Um, this came out last year. It is a novel about I think it's 3 teenage girls who are friends and go into a haunted house and something fucked up happens and it kind of links them together and then it's like jump to the present. One of those girls goes back to the house. Did she try to commit suicide? Like what happened there? So they're sort of like after, years apart of adult life, they're pulled back together to try to figure out like what is up with this house? Why? Um this is her first book and I thought it was very good. I will say, and this is why I know Samantha is not going to be interested in this, is
oh,
that
okay.
is
I
that
remember now.
I feel like there's a love story subplot. I think that works a lot better than the spooky house story. I feel like when you actually find out what's up with the house, you're kind of like, okay, whatever. But it's still a good book and I did really enjoy it. I listened to the audiobook. I'd recommend it. And I feel like it's a first book. Like I think I'm good rates. I gave this 4 out of 5. I did really enjoy it. But it's not like I don't know. I wouldn't say it's the best book I've ever read in my whole life.
As you were talking about it, I was like, "Why didn't I remember to reserve this at the library? It sounds really good." And then you reminded me that you said that the love story was the best part, and was like, "Ah, nah, I'm good."
It's not something I would usually say. It's not something I read books for. I don't like seek out love stories in general. I just thought it was like very realistic and compelling how these two people were like, brought together. I thought it was actually done in like a very believable, not cheesy way. Um but the spooky house stuff is fun too. It's just like I don't know. I just thought it didn't work as well as the romance part.
Sure.
Did you see that I think it's Minneapolis now has a romance only bookstore.
I did not see that.
I think it's Trifles and Tropes.
Okay.
So, if
Noted for
anybody
that. I don't know that I'm gonna be a
Yeah,
customer,
I was
but
like, I don't know that I am ever gonna head over to Trifles and Tropes, but I'll just put a shout out. Apparently, because it's romance only, and they do have erotica and such. They have like a much wider selection, obviously. So that my impression from that is it's very gay. I
okay.
would expect from Minneapolis. I would hope. So if you're
Yeah,
like sitting around going, man, oh man, I wish I could get my hands on some paper erotica. Well, there you go.
it's your lucky day.
Yeah. Welcome to Minneapolis. Unless it's in St. Paul. Sorry, I can't remember now. Somewhere around here. Okay.
Cool.
So that is the episode for today. If you're not a patron, you should really sign up. Our latest episode was about the 90s special Breaking the Magician's Code, Magic's Greatest Secrets Finally Revealed, hosted
We
by
heard from a few listeners who loved that show growing up.
I mean, I think if you were just an exact age, it really fucking blew your mind. And that's how I felt about it. Where I was like, I can't believe this is legal. What? So we talk about how a bunch of the standard magic tricks are done. If you're interested in hearing us talk about that, you'll have to cough up $1. Um, I hope everybody enjoyed the episode we released from the vault for Thanksgiving week, which was just me ranting for 2 hours about how the movie The Snowman doesn't make any sense.
And me being very confused the whole time.
There's honestly nothing I would like to do more than just rant about how a movie like that bugs me. So it's very cathartic. Thanks for everyone to listening to that. That was a good time. I did not realize when we recorded that episode that Michael Fassbender has been accused of domestic violence. So that
Oh,
makes that less fun, I guess.
damn.
Apparently he's a creep like literally everyone else. So stay away from Michael Fassbender if you see him. Or at like a good distance, get like a megaphone and be like, ask your questions about the snowman because I want to know.
Why did you get sleeping pills even though your character sleeps all the time?
Like he doesn't know either, though. You know, like he was like, I just
But
made
it would
that.
be fun to shout at him on the
Yes,
sidewalk.
yes, and apparently he deserves to be shouted at. So you know, have no remorse. Uh, the things I end up saying on the show. Go find creep Michael Fassbender and yell at him about how the snowman makes no sense. Yeah.
About why his character in the snowman needed sleeping pills.
About how at one point his hair is just way longer. It's clearly they reshot it later, but whatever. So yeah, that's a fun one. We have great content like that all the time.
There are over 60 episodes. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna actually I think that the one we released this month was our 70th episode. So if
We're
you
at
give us $1, you get 70 bonus episodes. Some of which we've released from the vault, but not most.
yeah, there's a lot.
Most are still behind that paywall. So
There's a lot
if
of
you want some
content.
more content, since we're
We're up
putting out
to
less and less every day.
59 coloring sheets at the $5 level. 59 coloring sheets somehow about this podcast. You could be coloring them all winter long if you give us $5.
There you go.
So that's patreon.com/perhaps it's you. All right. Oh my God. Give us a 5-star review and then tune in again in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks, listeners. Bye.
Bye.